The men in Pachinko don't fall apart. They go silent. They go quiet. From father to son, husband to wife, from generation to generation. This costs more than anything that Lee puts down on the page. This is the Literary Tailor, where we have great books that inspire better conversations. I am Zach. I am the host of this podcast. And today I'm doing the second episode of Pachinko, but I'm talking about 5 different men. These 5 different men used silence not as a weakness, but to survive in these times that they were forced to endure. And just to survive was really an eye opening for me. And to see these men not thrive, yeah, but survive is truly what makes me want to do this episode. These 5 men will be completely different from the men I talked about prior. These 5 men range from great grandfathers, police officers, and everything in between. I'm going to do another episode that discuss Noah and Moses because they deserve their own episode. And that will be the next episode to follow this one. So let's get into the second part of Pachinko with 5 different men that explore how silence was a key to survival. So let's get into it, guys. The man who loved his daughter without condition. This is the man I will be talking about first, and his name is Huni. Huni is the father of Sanja, but he starts off as a rough life. He is crippled. He has a cleft foot. He has some disabilities. Yeah, he wasn't really given much of a chance in this life. He wasn't viewed as someone who will thrive or survive in the time that he was born. His parents didn't even know if he would end up marrying and having a daughter. But this man kept on pushing forward. He didn't allow his condition, his physical appearance, to stop him from pursuing what he wants in his life. He went from a lonely person to having a daughter of his own. That would be Sanja. And when he had Sanja, he didn't treat her coldly. He loved her dearly. He would do anything for his daughter. He would even have a reputation among the town of being a kind soul, even being remembered fondly after his death. But Honi does play a role in Sanja's life because it sets a stepping stone for her how she would view a man and males in general. But he also would display a true nature of what Sanja, would be inspired to look for, and sort of almost capture in her own relationships with the men throughout her life. She looks for the men that have like a peace or like a nice nurturing feeling or attitude towards them, I guess you can say. And Honi possesses this to the T. Even though he wasn't in the book a very long time, he was only in the book for like one chapter, but he remained a standing point, a bar for Sanja and other women that he interacted, whether it be his own wife or someone else. He continued to show how hard work, as silent as he was, is truly what to use for what you want in life. He didn't allow his physical appearance, again, as mentioned before, to stop him from pursuing all these dreams, all these acts, all these things he wants in his life. He just kept on pushing away, plugging it away. He went to work every day until the day he unfortunately died. He didn't really have much of a language or a vocal because of his mental challenges, if you can say. But he still continued to show his love for Sanja through his body language, his only way to communicate with other people. He possesses this great love that that gives this umbrella to Sandra throughout the whole story, and that's why I think he deserved to have a good discussion about. Even though he was there for a short time, his impact was longing. Honey is the only man in Pachenko whose love doesn't come with a price tag. And Lee buries him in the first chapter, as to say, this is what we lose. The man who built an empire to avoid being nothing. And this man's name is Han Su. Let's talk about one of the most interesting men in this book. When we first meet Han Su, he's a very charismatic, well off, definitely has his own priorities already well known. He's very stylish when it comes to clothes. He's viewed as a winner in this society. He's not someone who is poor. He's very educated. He's wealthy, and he's also very powerful and socially and politically, if you can say that. But his role becomes even deepens when he falls in love with Sanja. The thing is, though, Hansu is a married man who actually has daughters by the time he meets Sanja. This doesn't stop him from pursuing her. He sees her as another opportunity to be young, I guess you can say. Sanja, being a young woman, like around 18 at this time, doesn't know this new world that she's entering, this new adulthood that she has to experience at a young age. Because she too falls in love with Hansu. This unfortunately turns into a turmoil point for her as she becomes pregnant, if you can say. Yeah, she becomes pregnant. And unfortunately, Hansu ends up not wanting to be in a long-term relationship, if you will, because, like I mentioned, he's married. So he cheats on his wife with Sanja and leaves her pregnant. I know this is a very, how you can say, a bastard thing to do, but he shows just how much power he has. Because even though he does leave Sanja for Japan, he becomes the shadow for this family throughout the whole story because he's the father of Noah. Noah would be the first child for Sanja. And for the first, and even though he wasn't there physically, he had a presence around his family, really like a shadow that's never going to go away, whether it be Noah's involvement or not. What he does is he does provide Noah a opportunity for an education for Sanja to keep the secret because what this man does is possibly connected in Japan. He might have Yakuza connections. It doesn't say outright. The author doesn't say this outright, but put two and two together, you kind of figure it out. Because he owns a restaurant as well that becomes a big key point and another character that will be discussed. He becomes the boss of this character that would employ Sanja and her sister-in-law to run a restaurant where they actually become successful until it closed, unfortunately. And he uses this other guy, the same man who ran a restaurant, to have a like a watchdog or like a very watchful eye on this family, almost to take care of them without even uh, a second thought, a spoken thought, if you can. Because again, he was the boss who never really shown his true power, his connections, but he definitely was a very wealthy man at this point through Noah's birth until his end, if you can say. I don't want to say too much about that. But the more power that Hansu possesses, the more human, or the less human he becomes, and becomes something more powerful than a lot of people at this time were. He never fights for Sanja, but he almost doesn't let her go either way, even when she was married to another fellow. He still has this hold on her. Obviously, being that one person being Noah, but there's still emotional connection, this bridge that never fades, even when Sandra knows the truth about this man that she hooks up with. She never lets him go, and he never lets her go. For me, Hanzu represents something more of a, I don't want to say terrifying, but he imposes this barrier that Sandra can't overcome. No matter how hard she tries, she'll never be as successful or have this connection that Hansu has. And for some parts, these connections, like the education for Noah, that Sandra needs. He allows us he's a gateway to a new life, but this new gateway is something that Sandra doesn't want to go through. She doesn't want to experience once again, but she has to endure this new way, despite that obstacle having a tragic ending. There's a version of Hansu that could have been great. Lee doesn't give us this version, just this interpretation of a man that could be better, but also could be worse. He's a very gray moral character in this story. But that's why Hansu creates a good discussion for us readers of this book, because he provides a new lens, a new male archetype, or a new figure, a new male figure in this book. But Hansu is the man that had everything, simply everything, and understood none of it. A jack of all trades and a master of none, if you will. He wanted power. His life was controlled by having this power. And it was the only thing he ever said and want, and that is power. If you want more stories like this one, or just to be involved in this community, check out my YouTube channel, The Literary Tailor, where I have more discussions about books. The link of that YouTube channel is below. Check it out for your enjoyment. I hope you guys do. Thank you. The man who confused silence with strength, and his name is Yosby. The man in uniform that has a huge identity crisis. His name is Harku. Harku would be one of the only friends for Moses. But this relationship becomes even closer, if you will, at least for Haku side. It becomes almost like a one-sided relationship, because for Haku, he has a fondness of Moses, maybe a little too much fondness, because he almost represents an outsider in a way. For Moses, he had to stick up for Haku in school, and that's how they met. Haku being a not the most wanted person, even kid in the classroom, whether it be a teacher or the students. He was to himself, but Moses gave him this branch to have a friend, to have a social relationship. So Haku is able to grab this new relationship, and it forms into a good friendship. And later on, when they become adults, Haku and Moses' friendship grows into another level. Haku ends up becoming a police officer, something that I thought was surprising from reading him from the beginning of his story until the last part of his story. But the thing that makes Haku such an interesting character to discuss, to have a conversation, is this identity crisis, which happens to be sexual identity crisis. He ends up being a closet, a gay man in a way. He even marries a woman, but this marriage feels fake. It feels false, because he is, as mentioned, is gay, so he's attracted to other men. Hence the reason why he even had had a friendship with Moses, because he had a crush on him. But we're also talking about the different times than today, where being gay, bi, lesbian, pretty much everything was unheard of. It was not talked about, definitely in Japan or South Korea at this time. Definitely a very closeted atmosphere, social circle, if you can say. He never revealed his true feelings for Moses because probably would have been a bad thing for him to uh, explore or to reveal to Moses, because Moses clearly wasn't gay, as he has his own wife by the time they reunite as adults. But this uh, character that Hansu brings a new lens, a different lens that really doesn't really, I don't think, gets discussed about, and that's like sexual identity in South Korea and Japan, whether it be this time or even today, where it's a lot different culture, or it might be a lot different compared to the United States in 2026. So to have this discussion about sexual identity in, I'm trying to say, like 1940, 1950, 1960s maybe, creates almost a new awareness about these internal struggle for a man in this era, this identity crisis to be themselves, rather be gay or just to be something else. But the society pigeonholes or doesn't want you to be this, especially gay. So for Hansu or Haku to always have this always over over him, this umbrella, this internal struggle that he has to experience every day, just creates a new discussion, this new identity issue that I think this author does amazing to explore. As mentioned, this author does an amazing work with each character. Each character, whether it be a male or female character, is able to have have a discussion about rather a different struggle they're facing, whether it be financial, social, or in Haku's sake, sexual. He even hides his own identity from his own wife. He does not reveal, well, he doesn't reveal his true feeling until she catches him in the act, if you can say that, where she has her own identity crisis, if you will. It's a strange situation for me. It's a strange situation in the end, but I guess whatever works, right? But he not this. What makes Haku interesting too is he's a police officer. He doesn't use his uniform, or he hit, or the uniform isn't the job. The uniform that he wears almost becomes like a own uh, author's point, where on the outside he's an officer, but on the inside he's a homosexual man. It creates a new image for Haku, because on the out, as mentioned, uh, the only people that he knows only sees him as a police officer and husband. But the true tragic thing is no one sees the true self, his true identity. But he also has this deep loyalty to Moses. Pretty much probably would let him get away with crimes if Moses asked, I'm sure. He also becomes also creates a new image of similar to some characters here, of a nurturer or a provider, because his brother ends up, as shown in throughout the story, having a mental challenges, really deep ones. So when his and his brother's mother dies, he takes in his brother, and his wife uh, has this also maternal uh, relationship with his brother. She takes care of him as her own child, which creates another just an interesting image of a male in a police officer, but he's a closeted homosexual, but also a provider for his own brother. Haku is the man who built his entire identity around what he can never say and called it duty. I also started the literary fitting, where I provide you a 3-book reading plan to help you go through some struggles, whether it be depression, anxiety, relationships, grief, because books help us a lot in a lot of ways. It's like a cheap prescription for us, where we can digest this information and apply it to our own lives. That's why I started the literary fitting, because I care about my viewers and I want to make sure that you and your loved ones have some help with their struggles. Please check that out. Thank you. The man who loved from a distance but never moved. The last man I'm going to discuss in this episode is Kim Chango. He is a man from North Korea. Well, different times, I guess, but he works for Hansu. He becomes his not sidekick, but he's an employee. He takes on a role as providing a household for Sanja and her family during some tough times. Rather be when they left or fled when World War II broke out. He also provided her and Kanji a job at the restaurant. But his main issue was he developed a romantic feeling for Kanji. But Kanji, as mentioned, is a married woman. He knows he can't act because acting or cheating with a married woman just wasn't a right thing to do. Rather, obviously, Hansu would beg to differ, but for Kim, he had a moral to not to do so, even though he truly had a romantic feeling for Kanji, and he never knew that if Kanji loved him back, which creates a barrier for him because he's unable to. Again, almost a repeating factor in this book is be him true self, allow his true self to be heard. Again, this episode's about silence. His silence is always his silence about his true feelings for Kanji just remains that silent, at least until it's too late. Kanji's husband even knows that Kim has feelings and almost gives him a blessing to marry her when he dies. But Kim still has some feelings of not going through with this. He carries this internal burden, this internal uh, silence that he can no longer express. He carries this feeling all the way until he moves away from Sanji and Kanji and can almost evaporates. He goes, he just leaves this life that could have been behind. He doesn't pursue Kanji in a way I guess a lot of men would. He doesn't try to woo her or try to court her. He never makes his feeling known to her until he's long gone, if you could say that. He still continues to provide some comfort, some foundation for Sanja and Kanji. Even when Kanji's husband is injured, he provides a structure, a foundation for this family that's in dire need of having this foundation structure when a lot of things weren't stable. He's the one that adds this stability in his family. It allows uh, Noah to continue reading to become more of a scholar, and for Moses to become more independent and become more of a man that he will become. Kim provides this foundation, which creates creates a big role, even though his character has no big over uh, umbrella No, he doesn't become like a. His presence doesn't come too much throughout the whole book, but still, it's just these moments, these short moments of structure, is truly what matters to this family in the end. And the tragic thing is this uh, this feeling, this uh, ability to provide a structure goes uh, not go unnoticed, but becomes uh, tragic when obviously he loves Kanji. He's unable to see if she loves him back. He moves away before he could learn about this answer, to learn her true feelings. Could she have loved him when her husband died? This remains a big question in the end of this book. But as mentioned, this is why he's a interesting character. He allows the silence to uh, both shield him from a possible consequence with Yasby, but it also provides him a never answered question on what if Kanji loved him back. He loved her till who knows how long. Even when he moved, this question will always remain throughout this book. What if she liked him back? Kim is the man who loved Kanji. And the only way he ever to say it was by being asked to. There you guys have it. The second episode about 5 characters that their silence wasn't used as a form of weakness, but a way to survive. As mentioned, this is a 3-part episode. In the third part, I dig deeper into 2 brothers that have a big impact on this book. That is Noah and Moses. One a scholar, one's a rebel. One's successful, another is not so much. That's where it becomes interesting. Who's the one that is successful? Who's the one that fails in some ways? That's a question. That's a discussion that I'm going to have with you guys in next episode. So, which of these men hit you the hardest? Which of these men could you see yourself similar as? Which of these men could you not see yourself as? Which of these men almost is a mirror to you? That's a good question to ask yourself as you either listen to this podcast or check out the book yourself. I have the link to that book in the description below as well. As mentioned, I have a Literary Taylor YouTube channel. I want you guys to check that out for other videos and more content. And I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, and I can't wait to do the next one. This is the Literary Taylor, the podcast, where we have great books that inspire better conversations. I am Zach. I am the host, and I hope you guys enjoy this podcast. Till then, I'll see you guys in the next one. Happy reading, guys.